Hello everyone and welcome to a new Webflow tips. Today we have kind of a special episode. We are trying to integrate some custom code into our website without having to publish our website every time. I've been using this method for a couple of months now. I think it's super useful if you want to start adding some custom code into your project. For example, if you want to use JSAP or maybe even some 3GS. Don't hesitate to tell me if you see any thing that we could improve. And I hope you like it. See ya. Today we're going to try to import some custom code into Webflow without having to publish our website again and again. I don't know if it's very clear, but let me show you. So the normal way to import some custom code into Webflow is to add a script tag at the end of our body tag and to write our code. So maybe let's say just put an alert right there. Let's say hello. I need to save and to publish my website. So I need to wait for it to be published, and then my code is working. And it's really fine if I only have a small code or just a few lines of code. But let's say, for example, I want to work on a bigger project or I want to do something a bit different, or maybe just tweak some values. I need to go back to my custom code, do the changes I want to do in my code, save again, publish again, and wait for it to be published. And it's not really convenient. It's taking a lot of time, and it's really not ideal. And then if I refresh, my code is updated. And so there's a developer called Armand Saleh who created a template that allows to update our code without having to do that every time, and it's really cool. And what I'm going to do is that I'm not going to try and explain all of this. What we're going to do is to install that together and see why it's so useful. And there's a really cool documentation that explains everything, so it's really cool. And there's a small, it's not really a warning, but you have small steps to follow at the beginning. And basically Armand is saying that you need some basic knowledge about Git, GitHub and Node.js. And I know that as a non-developer it can be a bit scary, even maybe, I don't know, a bit boring, but there's a lot of documentation about that, and you just need to watch maybe some videos or read some articles about this, and it's going to be just fine. So that's the first thing. The second one is that we need to have Git, Node.js and Yarn installed on our computer. It's a one-time thing, so you just need to do that once, and once it's done, you don't need to worry about that, and it's going to save you a lot of time. The one last thing we need to install on our computer is the desktop version of GitHub. And again, really simple, really fast. Just download that, install it, and it's done. So I did all that, and yeah, can move on. So the first step is to go to the JavaScript template. So you have a GitHub repository right there, and we need to clone this template. So I'm going to click on use this template, and I'm going to call this one, I don't know, Webflow JS maybe. So yeah, clone the repo by clicking use this template. Now what Armand is doing is that he's cloning the repository on his computer using his terminal and some code. We are going to use the desktop version of GitHub to do that, because it's easier, I think, as a non-developer to do that way. So I have my new repository, and then I'm going to code and open with GitHub desktop. So let's do that. Let's clone, and we can see that I have a new folder right there, and it's the same folder that I have on GitHub. So yeah, so now what do? So now we need to open this folder in our code editor. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. There's different code editor. I'm using this one. It's working fine for me. You can use the one you like. So let's open our folder, and the first thing we need to do is to install the dependencies. And just like the very first step of this, it's a one-time thing. So by the way, I'm opening my terminal. So I'm doing terminal, new terminal, and I need to install the dependencies. And you have everything right there. Install the project dependencies with yarn command, or we can use the npm command. I'm going to use npm, and I'm doing npm install. And yeah, so it's a one-time thing. So once this is done, I don't need to do that every time. I can close my folder, turn off my computer, come back to it, and I don't need to do that again. It's really just at the beginning. So okay, and now we can start the dev server using yarn dev or npm run dev. So let's try that. Let's say npm run dev, and we can see that we have a local server. So let's copy and see what we have. And yeah, we have just a simple page saying it works. So that's cool. So that's the first thing. So let's just do something like that, so we can see our page and our code. And it's quite a big folder, but we only need to care about the source folder, and more particularly the main.js file. It's really our main file, like his name says, and that's where we are going to write our code. And you can see that if I go to the to my file, I can access it on my website, and I have exactly the same code right there. So yeah, so that's the first step. But now we need to integrate all this inside Webflow, because for the moment we are using a local server, but it's not really useful for us. So let's see what the documentation is saying. And yeah, integration with Webflow. So we have two options, and the first one is really good if you're working by yourself, if you want to only work locally, and you can use these two script tags to copy and paste them in your custom code. And basically what this is doing is that it's using a local file as your JavaScript source, so that everything you're writing on your local file is used on your website. And I really hope it's clear. I'm making it as clear as I can. But basically, yes, you're using a local file as a source for your custom code. So that's the first option. The second one is the same one, but as Armand is saying in his documentation, is that there's a script loading the right JS file. And so it means that if I'm developing a website and that I have a dev server running on my computer, it will load my local files. And if I don't have any dev server running, it's going to look for another URL. And we're going to host our code on Netlify later in this video, but for the moment, we just need to understand what this code is doing. And yeah, if you don't really understand, you can come back to the documentation and it will make more sense, I think, a bit later. So let's just copy this. I'm going to delete my code in the home page. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to paste this in my global custom code. So I'm using the ThemeSuite extension so I can access it right there. So let's paste that. And let's publish again. And now we can see that it's working. I'm on Webflow and my custom code is working. And maybe let's take a look at the console. I have a welcome to VGS plus Webflow. So it's because I have a console log right there. And if I change the text, let's just say like earlier, hello. If I save my file, my page is updating automatically. So it's very useful, very fast, and I don't need to go back to my website to publish, wait for it to be published, and so on and so on. So it's really cool. I can also access my CSS with style.css file. and maybe I want to say body background color red, and if I save, you can see that my background color is changing. So it's really cool. So yeah, I also have some features. Let me delete all that, and I will show you from scratch. Then I will delete everything. So now if I save, I have actually nothing on my page, but I can create a new file. I'm going to call this one feature.js, but you can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to say, I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call this one feature. And I'm going to say console.log. And I'm going to say this is a feature. So I have a function, and I can export that function. Export defo and feature, so it's the name of my function. And if I go back to my main JS file, I can say import feature and feature from features-feature. So I'm importing my file importing my function into my main file.js. And now if I save, I have an error because it's saying feature is defined but never used. And it's because I did not use my function for the moment, but I can call it, let's say feature. And now we can see that we have this is a feature. And you don't need to use that. It's a bit more complicated, but it's useful if you want to divide your code into several files. If maybe you have, I don't know, a lot of pages or a lot of different functionalities on your website, you can divide your code this way. So we are not going to do that in that video, but it's a possibility you have. So let's delete that. And yeah, just like that, we can import some code into JavaScript. And I'm not going to write any code in this video because I think that the point of this video is just to see how we can import everything into Webflow. And let's just add a console log. And we're going to say this is working. And just to see that our JavaScript is working, and let's say if I'm shut down the dev server, I'm using the shortcut Control-C, you can see that we have a connection refused, and we don't have any message in my console, because my dev server is, I don't know if I can say off, but is not running anymore, so I can't use my local file as a source for my code. And if I start it again using the npm run dev command, it's working again. We have this message right there, and if I refresh my page, we have this is working. So it's cool. But now it's really cool if I'm only working by myself, if I don't want to show my website somewhere else. But if I want to publish my website and show it to client, to the team, or pretty much everyone, I need to use Netlify and GitHub. And for that, you have the documentation, which is very well done. And what we need to do is to commit and push our code to GitHub, and then host a website on Netlify. And that's a part where I'm not really comfortable, but I got it. Yeah, it's working for me. So I guess I'm not doing everything wrong. But if you have any info, please share it with us. But we can see that I have some files. If I click right there, I have some files here. And same thing if I'm going to GitHub, I have 6 changes, and I can commit. And there I can put a summary, so you can put, it's the name of the small description of what you did, and let's say just setup, and a description. I'm going to put something a bit not very useful. I'm just going to say this is a description, because this is for the sake of the example, and then I commit to main, and then I push. Before I push, let me go back So this is my GitHub file on my computer, my GitHub repository, and if I go to main.js, we can see that this is my code. And if I push, you can see that it's actually pushing, refreshing, and now if I refresh, you can see that my code changed. So I can update my repository using this method. So I can work locally and then push my code to GitHub to save my work. So that's the first step. And now what I can do is go to Netlify. Let's log in. And I can, so you need to create a website, an account, and then I can add a new site, import an existing project, use GitHub. And then I can just take a repository. So I'm going to take Webflow.js. I'm not touching anything and I deploy the website. Then I can go to domain setting and change the site name. And I can do something like, just let's call it Webflow.js as well. And let's see, and it's building. So let's check. We need to wait a few seconds and it's published. And let's click there, and now I can access my main.js file with that URL. So really useful, and it's not on my computer. So if I use that as a source for my script, it's going to work everywhere. So let's go back to our code. So custom code, and I need to change that link. So I'm pasting my link, I save, close, and publish. And now if I go to my website, let me just shut down the dev server. And now we have this is working. And let's do something else. Let's say that I'm going to have a background color, body background color, sorry. Let's say I want it to be red when I'm working locally, and I want to have an alert that says local. And so if I start the dev server, I have npm run dev, and I have local, so I'm using the local file on my computer. And let's say production, okay, and let's say it's green when it's in production. So let's do that. Okay, well, now I'm going to commit and push my code. So let's say, I don't know, I never know what to put right there. I need to really check this. But let's just say, I don't know, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I should definitely check this. Let's say commit. Let's push. Okay, and now so we can see that it's gonna update everything on GitHub. So it's production, and we can see that my website goes from publish to building. So I'm working locally, pushing all my code on GitHub, and it's updating automatically the file hosted on Netlify. So let's refresh, so it's done. So if I go to my website and I refresh, I have production. So okay. By the way, let's shut down the server, let's refresh, production. So my city is in production, okay, and it's green. Now let's say I want it to be, my background to be red when I'm working locally, so we can see the difference, and let's say local. I refresh, I start the dev server, npm run dev. If I refresh, it says local, and it's red. Because since we are using this script, we are loading the file locally if I have a dev server running, and we are using the file that are hosted on Netlify if I don't have any server running, so that I can share my work with everyone. So I really hope it's clear. And yeah, so this is working locally, and if I shut it down just one last time, it says production, because now we are loading the file hosted on Netlify, and it's green. So yeah, that's pretty much it.